Hi guys, I'm Mike and this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back to the channel and to another episode of F1 Fantasy Weekly, the F1 Fantasy game where you have 100 million budget to pick 5 drivers, 1 constructor to create your team that scores points across a Formula 1 weekend to compete against your friends and the world. Obviously, like we said, if you tuned into the live stream, you will know that Stephen is on a staycation this week, somewhere. I think it's Dorset. Wow, terrible. I've completely forgotten where they've gone. Useless for me. Anyway, they're away for the week and you've just got me. So we're going to be looking ahead in F1 fantasy terms to the Monaco Grand Prix. So I would probably say everything that I say today, we should probably do the opposite of because it won't work out and I'll jinx it. But hopefully, actually, we don't. But anyway, as we usually do, we're going to go through our kind of top picks, our top turbo picks, our guys we'd kind of avoid. But we're going to jump straight into it as the screen recording starts now. Okay, so I thought important thing to go. If you've been logged into the F1 Fantasy website or on the app, on the F1 app to F1 Fantasy, you would have got this information up, which is sprint qualifying point structure. So I think this is quite important because streaks are coming into play in Monaco. So I think it is quite important to notice. So taking this to a separate one here. So the point scoring for the sprint weekend. So qualifying, again, same Q1 finish, Q2 finish, 2 points. Q3 finished 3 points and qualified ahead of teammate driver only is 2 points. If you did not qualify, it's minus 5 points and disqualification from qualifying, as always, is minus 10 points on that one. So that's normal qualifying for getting things. Position bonuses, again, for the top 10. 10 obviously for pole position and 1 point all the way down to 10th. If you finish outside, you don't get any qualifying points. For that, the race ones are all the same. Finish the race, blah, blah, blah. Everything. You can see all of this on the F1 website and they have a point scoring thing that you can go through in your own team. But let's scroll down to the streaks is what will be important because for Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, if everything goes to plan, their 5-streak bonus will come into play at this sprint qualifying race at Silverstone. So this is why it's important. But important one, I'll see if I can highlight it here. Sprint qualifying is excluded from streaks and calculations. So if they qualify outside the top 10 but qualify inside the top 10 in the sprint qualifying, the outside the top 10 will be classified from there. But that can obviously work the opposite way, that if a driver is on a streaks and they finish outside the top 10 in the sprint race, bang, it can obviously make a lot of plays. It'll affect the driver in that way as we go. But here are the points. So if you finish the sprint qualifying race, you score 1 point. Per positions gained is 1 point, and it looks like that's just anything. Like in the race, obviously you get let's see if I can find it there. If they got it there, I believe there's kind of no, they haven't got it there. For overtakes inside the top 10, they are like plus 2 points. So it just looks like there's a flat baseline, 1 point with a maximum of 5 points gained. So from 5 overtakes, there is a maximum of extra 5 points you can get from overtakes on the track. Finished ahead of teammate, you can get 2 bonus points there, and fastest lap, you get 3 points. So that might be a big one, actually, in the qualifying sprint quality. Going for that fastest lap, that is certainly could be a good points differential when we get to it. And then per positions lost, same as the kind of positions gained, maximum of 5 ones. For every position you lose, you get minus 1 point. If you're not classified in the sprint qualifying race, you will get minus 5. And if you're disqualified from the sprint qualifying, you will get minus 10. So Again, similar to qualifying, it looks like 10 points for first place, 1 point for 10th place to go from there. And they've got this little graphic as you go from here, just ticks of point scoring. So on a normal weekend, you only score points on qualifying and the race. And on a sprint qualifying weekend, you score points in qualifying, sprint qualifying, and the race. Now, it's a big one. Monaco is the safe bet because you feel both Max and Lewis, they're guaranteed they're on their streak. They could both retire, one retire, neither retire in the race on Sunday, but you know they're guaranteed that the streaks are coming in this weekend to potentially use your Mega Driver and to capitalise on it. Now the question is do you want to be a gambler? Do you want to gamble on the fact that Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are going to, after this race, in the next 4 races, finish inside the top 10 and qualify inside the top 10? I mean, it pretty much is, if they finish or don't have any problems with their cars, they will definitely complete that. Sprint qualifying in Silverstone, they will certainly, as you've got 3 sessions that you can score points in, it definitely feels like it will be a bigger point swing on the Mega Driver if you wait and gamble out. And so that probably leads us on nicely to the preview of Monaco GP. So if I go back and got teams here, I did look to play the wild card. This week got Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris, Ocon and Schumacher as it stood, and Ferrari. That's where I've been kind of looking to gain points. As you can see, 4 mil is the budget here. Now the real big debate is, as it is my wild card, do you bank on Lewis Hamilton? But let's see where the streaks are coming in this weekend. So as you can see, Ferrari are on a quali streak here. Let's get all the constructors up, but it still looks like 37.6, it's too much for Mercedes, so they're immediately ruled out. But Red Bull are on a race streak this weekend, so that will be bigger bonus points than Ferrari on the streaks on that front. So definitely, it probably feels like it's the time to have Red Bull in your team, which then means if we go back to the drivers, so I'm always useless with this. If we go back to the drivers, you can see Hamilton 33.3 million. That's 7.9 million, I think it is, more expensive than Max Verstappen. And that is quite huge because not only are these two on race streaks and qualifying streaks, you also have Valtteri Bottas on a qualifying streak, but he's probably ruling out a thing. Charles Leclerc is on a double streak, and Lando Norris is on a double streak. So they are 2 must drivers definitely to have in it. Daniel Ricciardo, always strong at Monaco, has the kind of 10-point race streak bonus as well. But like I said, they should, if they both qualify in the top 10 and finish in the top 10, they will just straight off the bat get 5 more points each than Daniel Ricciardo in the race there. Esteban Ocon is definitely going to be one to be looking out for the following race week after Monaco. But these are your big ones and combinations who you're going forward. So top picks is between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. I feel Lewis Hamilton is going to win the race, but I would probably in fantasy terms still go with this man here, Max Verstappen, just because of that difference in budget between himself and Lewis Hamilton. I think you're going to make up those points with the drivers that you can get there. Valtteri Bottas for me will be a kind of a no-go. And Sergio Perez with no streaks, the expensive price, he hasn't quite hit that consistency yet. He would be a guy that I would definitely sacrifice in the team for Charles Leclerc, who obviously you can see from the start of F1 Fantasy has now gone up to be the same price as Sergio Perez. And as Sergio Perez keeps dropping in price, he probably still becomes more an attractive option. And Charles Leclerc, the interesting one. He's been a pretty consistent point scorer so far, but not to the point of there. But this man, this is the big one. Now, if you go Ferrari as a constructor, you can upgrade Mick Schumacher and have Leclerc, Norris, Ricciardo, depending on what your teams have got. Ocon is a must, I think, to have in there. Alpine should have pretty good pace. But yeah, you can end up having Max, Charles, Norris and Daniel Ricciardo all on race streaks and a Ferrari quali streak, which I would strongly back them to get that qualifying streak. There's a real temptation to go with Daniel Ricciardo and then Umanar, and it's definitely going to be monitoring the kind of free practice over the course of the weekend and see where Daniel Ricciardo is, because he looked a much stronger showing last time out in Spain. His best result, first in race performance, that he's beaten Lando Norris so far. Previous race winner at Monaco with Red Bull. He may just be worth it to cash in on that race streak and to have Ferrari as a constructor. But if Sergio Perez does finish well and it's a strong 2-4 performance, 2-3 performance from Red Bull, then the point difference is probably going to go in favour of having Red Bull as your constructor rather than Ferrari. But the real thing is here, Red Bull as a constructor has Sergio Perez, and Sergio Perez has been very up and down so far this season. But Charles Leclerc has been consistent, Norris has been consistent, Max Verstappen has been consistent, Ferrari have both been pretty consistent, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz may even beat Charles Leclerc this weekend. He is kind of underrated and quite good at Monaco, I would say. So these are the big decisions. I'm probably going to leave it to the last minute. Maybe at the moment I'm favouring, like I've said, going for that Daniel Ricciardo move. But it'd be interesting on that. Vettel and Alonso still are far too expensive for the points returns that you're going to get out. So they would be both drivers that I would avoid picking. Carlos Sainz is an interesting one. And if we were to go with Lewis Hamilton as your driver, I think you can get Norris, Ocon, Schumacher, Red Bull, and Carlos Sainz in there. And although he doesn't have the streaks, he may, like I said, beat Leclerc and still score highly. He's got a potential of a good race. So if you're going for that route and not bringing in Leclerc, Norris, but I would highly recommend going that route, Carlos Sainz may be an option for you. Lance Stroll, again, too expensive for his price. Gasly's an interesting one, but he's probably one to maybe, if he finishes in the top 10 this week, to look in having with Ocon in next race week. That's the ones you may be looking to capitalise on it. Kimi, Yuki, Gio, all a bit expensive for necessarily what you can get. Giovinazzi and Mick Schumacher is probably the difference, because I think Giovinazzi is going to beat Raikkonen in both qualifying and the race this weekend. But whether he will get enough overtake points and finishes to get more than Mick Schumacher, who is obviously still at 5.9 million there, and obviously has have no race streaks. He just seems the best pick. And Gio's a little bit of a gamble, where although Mick Schumacher might be a gamble, because it's his first time at Monaco in F1, and it's a really difficult track to go to. So I think between the bottom picks, it's between Gio and Mick if you can afford it. If you can't, then it's definitely Mick out of George Russell, Latifi and Mazepin. The Williams I don't want to touch. I think they're too expensive and too much of a risk. George Russell at the moment is a risk at the moment, but as you can see, he's picked by 42% of players. Latifi's now less than 5%. Mick Schumacher's 29%, and Nikita, I was joking in the live stream that kind of feels like, he's definitely going to be a crash this weekend. He would definitely feel like one that I would want to avoid this weekend. But turbo pick. My gut says Charles Leclerc, so you probably shouldn't go with that. But Charles Leclerc has never finished an F1 Grand Prix at Monaco to date. But it is his home Grand Prix. He's been fantastic so far. There's even more of a maturity about him this season. I think from season to season, he's growing and growing and getting better and better. And he's a fantastic talent. I would back him over, because I think Norris will lose out to Daniel Ricciardo this weekend. So, but if you have Daniel Ricciardo, he also comes into play as potential of a turbo pick. But my turbo pick for this week is going to be Charles Leclerc. But if it's between three, it's Leclerc, Ricciardo and Norris, as always, because of those race streaks, to cash in on it and go on those fronts. Now, Mega Driver or not to Mega Driver? If you want to play it safe, we kind of mentioned it at the start. Mega Driver this weekend, because you know guaranteed that Hamilton and Verstappen are on for streaks. If not, wait for and hope that they both finish the next 4 races after this, and you can cash in at the sprint qualifying in Silverstone. You're going to have to be a bit ballsy here and wait it out, but I think it may, in terms of points return, definitely work out, and it's fine margins definitely at the top on that front. Yeah, guys, I think, just in the screen recording, I think that's it for today's Monaco Fantasy Preview. Hope you've enjoyed the episode. As always, let us know who's in your team in the comments below. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking ahead of this weekend? It's all going to be a big dependent on qualifying. So qualifying is going to be key because Monaco is such a traditionally difficult track to overtake on, and it's overcuts and undercuts that will definitely bring those drivers lower down the field into play. But certainly lots of interesting ones, lots of things to kind of play around with in your team to see if you can negotiate that budget. So yeah, good luck this weekend, guys. Enjoy the Monaco Grand Prix. And don't forget, if you're new around here, you can like, subscribe and ding that bell. Stephen will be back next weekend. Enjoy the race weekend and we'll see you on Monday for our live stream race reaction of the Monaco GP. So for now, you F1 fans, keep racing.